Every time I look in the mirror, all these lies.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. 'Tis I, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. Hello DJ, how you doing, man?
Hello. It's the Curious DJ. I don't know why that just came into my head.
The Curious DJ?
Sorry, that's probably patented. She's gonna kill me.
Does that make me the man in the yellow hat? I don't...
Well, if we're married, I don't know. Anyway, it's a great evening.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you were...
Is that my end
That's
or
a
your
different...
end?
I'm sorry, what? You hearing some echoing now?
Sorry. You were cutting out on me. I don't know if that's on my end or I don't know what's going on.
Oh, well,
So you're
everything
fine
is
now.
perfect here. Okay, I'm having zero problems, DJ. No, when you said... I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about Curious George.
Oh,
And I was like...
weird. I just read
that
through
make
the
me-
entire Curious George collection with my son this week. We've been doing it one a night. Those things are weird. Have you ever read those?
Not really. I mean, I must have when I was a little kid, but I don't remember the content
It's
of
like,
them at
it's
all.
like the first one, Curious George gets locked up in a human prison, and then he breaks out, and then he climbs up to, and he gets a job
Wait,
as like
what?
he gets a job as like a window painter, and he's like creeping on people, and he's not supposed to look, but he's curious, and then he goes into the room and like paints up all the walls, and then they're chasing him, and then he falls off the fire escape and like breaks his leg, and he's in the human hospital for a while, and then he like sniffs a bunch of he takes, I can't remember what drug it is, but then he gets really high and gets loopy for a little bit. It's such a weird book. It's like all over the place.
Yeah, and you think of Curious George as like the single most wholesome thing you could possibly give to your kids to read, and then the description, like, I'm sure when you read that in context, it doesn't sound as wild in 1960s as you're making it, but like, I really wanted you to leave off the mention of your kid there. I just got done reading through all of those recently, and just leave it there.
Yeah. Well, that's also true. I could leave that off, and it would be a true statement.
And just own it. Just own it. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for joining us live tonight. If you're watching as we're broadcasting, thanks for watching after the fact. If you're doing that instead, tonight is just a regular Ask Me Anything show like we did on Tuesday. No major lead-in story tonight. We're just going to chat about whatever you guys want to. We were off for a couple of weeks, so I want to try to get as many questions in this week as humanly possible, and we may do some fun themed stuff next week. A lot of stuff out right now, DJ, that I need to watch and try to review soon, and I'm going to try to make separate solo videos for those things if I'm able, but if not, I may talk about them some on the Captain Logan Show next week, anything that I don't manage to get to this weekend. I need to review the first episode for Lower Decks, which I'm kind of, cringing and not really wanting to watch, but hopefully it turns out to be better than I'm expecting. But I mean, I have been burned, and I don't want to say fooled, but burned, twice now. 3 times if you count the fact that I thought Discovery Season 2 had a better chance than 1 of being, decent and sort of coherent. And the joke was on me there. But I don't know, now they're just doing a parody cartoon show of Star Trek that is supposed to be both Star Trek and a parody of Star Trek, and seems like, least common denominator, but we'll see, whatever. I like to try to give everything a chance. If I decide to actually look at it. And I've talked about all these other things, so I might as well. And then the first part of the Transformers animated miniseries on Netflix dropped a week or 2 ago. I haven't gotten to that yet. And I just realized a couple days ago, DJ, that the first episode for Muppets Now just dropped on Disney Plus this week, and I'd like to watch that and talk about it as well. So I'm going to try to get to, like I said, that stuff this weekend, but I don't know how much time I'm going to have. It's going to be a lot of stuff to sit down and watch, so maybe some stuff about that on the Captain Logan shows next week. So anybody that might be asking about Lower Decks, that dropped today. I've not watched it yet, so I won't be talking about that this evening. I'm going to watch that later tonight or tomorrow and talk about it, like I said, hopefully over the weekend. So tonight, anything you guys want to chat about, we're going to go ahead and start answering questions right this very moment. If you want to leave a super chat, that will guarantee that your question gets, or your topic gets talked about on air, but of course don't feel the need to do that. We will answer as many pre-written things as we can. Away we go, DJ. What have you got?
All right. First one I saw.
Away we
From
go
Blue
means
Dragon
ask
5.
me a question.
it is.
Are we having lag issues?
We are. You keep breaking up on me for a second.
Oh, is that still happening? Okay.
I don't know why that's happening.
That's what that seemed like.
You went like away, we go.
Weird. Okay. So that was either that or I'm thinking like, what is the high sign supposed to be?
All right. So the first one I saw was from Blue Dragon 5. He says, would you rather see the Amazon Tick continued as an animated movie like Return of the Caped Crusaders, or see the Tick in a general, freshly adapted as a video game? The Tick in general, freshly adapted as a video game.
Yeah, so I guess he means just not based on any other properties that have happened already, like giving the Tick kind of the Arkham treatment, which is a hilarious thing to say, especially because the Tick in his first issue comes from an insane asylum in the first place. So you could act like the Tick's at the end of Arkham Asylum and he leaves the asylum. I also found myself thinking about that when you were talking about Curious George earlier, where I was like, this has an uncomfortable amount in common with early issues of the Tick. But anyway, I digress. If budget was an issue and other streaming services besides Amazon, or maybe even Amazon, wouldn't pick up a live action version but would consider animation because A, it's cheaper to make, and B, it's kind of at this very moment anyway difficult to make live action stuff, and like some things are starting to film again, but until the virus is 100% eradicated, it's going to be a while before anything feels totally normal, especially regarding shooting things. So I could see that now being the time for a thing like that, and it being easier to get greenlit. I would be fine with a new Tick animated series, of course. In a lot of ways, I think the original cartoon is still the best iteration of that. They're all different, and it's difficult to compare it to the Amazon show. That first season, I think, is an absolute masterpiece, but they're doing different things. The sense of comedy is very similar, but the way they tell stories is different. But anyway, so like either a completely new series, yet again a fourth show that is maybe a little bit more adult than the Fox show was able to be, but even more heightened than well, I don't know how, if you can even get that much more heightened in the Amazon show. I guess just being animated, there's a lot of stuff you can put on screen that you can't in that, but it would be totally cool to see yet a fourth iteration, or even doing a third season in animation. I guess I would prefer that just to finally close up a lot of those loose ends. The big problem with the second season is it doesn't answer hardly any of those questions that it asked in the or that I was asking in the first season, and it seemed very, very confident it was going to get a third season, and it's really unfortunate that didn't end up happening. So yes, of course, I'd love to see that finished in any way whatsoever, even in comic form if it had to be, just to see what Edlin was planning, as long as Edlin wrote it. So yeah, I don't know how a Tick video game would play exactly, but of course I'd love to see that. Yeah. I want more Tick material in general all the time, but I'm in this very, very tiny group of people that are huge fans of that material. It does not have a giant fan base, so.
I'm not lagging.
That was amazing.
Okay, so this is from William Parcell.
Hi there.
He says, I saw how human Joker looks in that Harley Quinn comic you reviewed.
Yeah.
Did it make you realize how modern Joker is often drawn to look inhuman?
No, but that was a good point that you made. I saw in that comment. Yeah, I hadn't had that thought. I was thinking it looks more like Ledger's Joker than anything I'd seen in a while, or hilariously like one of the action figures that was made of Ledger's Joker that was made like a tiny bit more cartoony, but still sort of had that look. That's what I was reminded of. I had an action figure of that, and I was like, oh, this looks like that. But anyway, that's a good point that you make, that he's often made to look kind of grotesque and impossible and larger than life. And I think that's I mean, there are certainly good reasons to do that stylistically. The version in Harleen, I think, needs to be more realistic looking, look more like a man, like a vulnerable, real human being, so that he's able to seduce Harley the way that he does. She sees potentially an actual person in there, and if he, if he looked like the Joker from the Batman, that's not gonna play as well. So of course it wouldn't be that, but yeah, I think the thing to keep in mind with the Joker is that he doesn't put on a full-blown costume like Batman does in order to intimidate or freak out people. I guess in his case, like he's creating fear just like Batman is, just in a different way. And for him to be the yin to Batman's yang, he's kind of got to be over the top in a different way. So it makes a lot of sense that he's drawn that way as much as he is. And I think in different places in that book, he looks a little bit crazier, not like impossible, like jagged and nuts, but just like, when he's in, when Harley's in full regalia in that, he looks a little bit more like the Joker we're used to. And then when he's in Arkham, he's just a guy that's got, makeup on, just like the Ledger version. I forget if that's a version that actually has pale white skin or if he's putting makeup on. I don't think it really comes out and straight up tells us, makes a big deal out of it. That's a thing that a lot of people argue about, and some people really don't care for, is that ever since Ledger, we have a lot of Jokers that don't have bleached skin, and I don't have a dog in that fight. It kind of depends on the version of it for me. It makes sense either direction, I guess, with Harleen, and I just don't remember which way it was. That's how much that doesn't matter to me. But anyway, I digress. But yes, that was a great point that you made.
What's up, boys? Says Lightning City.
Oh, I thought you were just saying that.
Cap, what's your worst experience with a celebrity at a convention or something?
Oh,
Explain
goodness.
in detail.
That is borderlining on After Dark material, isn't it? DJ, that's hilarious. I think we should just occasionally burst out into like randomness. Just occasionally just come up with like crazy phrases.
Slogans.
That we just jump into. Just like, look at deer, just like right in the middle of the show. Anyway, in the bunker there's a deer. So anyway, what was the question again? It was about what
worst.
Yeah. Clearly, I'm really chomping at the bit to answer this question. No, I've talked about this before. Mine is Michael Dorn. He was not having the best moment when I met him, and didn't make eye contact with me. Didn't want to talk to me. I brought him my batleth to sign. I was, of course, very excited about it. It was right after a panel, and he sat down, and I think he was kind of hoping that he wouldn't have anybody walk up to him for signatures right then. But there wasn't, anybody standing there making sure that a line didn't form, and there was just like nobody around. And so if I wasn't supposed to be there right then, he or his handler right next to him could have told me that, and he went ahead and signed it. So I wasn't really sure why he was in the mood he was in, and so that was a little disappointing. But I mean, no hard feelings or whatever. I'm sure he was just having a bad moment or a bad day or whatever. But that was, I've been getting this batleth signed for years by actors playing Klingons. I probably haven't had it signed in 7 or 8 years, but for a long time I had a lot of Klingons signing it, and he was of course kind of my big giant bucket list celebrity, and finally he makes it to a convention where I'm able to get that sign, and it was a big deal. And I saw him and Adam West on the same day, and one of the reasons that was a disappointing encounter is because I saw him like an hour or two after Adam West, which was a polar opposite experience. I also had that to compare it to, and they were expensive enough that those were the only signatures I got, and really the only things I bought that entire show. So yeah, that was disappointing. But
that's
no
hard.
hard feelings.
Like when you're seeing people like all the time, like for so long, someone's gonna have a bad experience with you. You're gonna have a bad day sometime. It just sucks because that's that person's only memory of you. I don't know. I try to give people some some leeway on that, but I understand when you're waiting to see someone. And
I will admit that on the day I was kind of upset about it. It kind of ticked me off in the moment, but like I get it. I was the guy that just had to be, you know, the fan in that moment that was excited, and he didn't. And I wasn't irritating or anything. I mean, like, you know, I wasn't that you know, like creepy fanboy guy that you know, won't stop asking incessant questions about like specific episode numbers and that sort of thing. I wasn't doing that. I didn't even really say anything to him except like, you know, hi, you know, Michael Dorn or whatever. I don't even remember what I said, and I just bring him, you know, my bat lift, And the other thing that was weird about it, too, is he didn't want to talk to me, he didn't make eye contact, but he was very interested to see what other signatures were on the bat lift.
Oh, interesting.
So he just stared at it for a while. It was very awkward.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I'm sorry, man. There's still hope. He's still alive, right?
Batman says, oh, yes, he's not only still alive, I think he's probably still trying to get his Captain Worf show made. Batman, yeah, it can't be on all the time, and every single person that meets you needs to be the best experience ever, or they think you're being mean on purpose, or at least that's what I witnessed. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, in my defense, I had at that point met a whole lot of celebrities and had never had that experience, and it's different when they're just low energy, and aren't like engaging with you a lot and don't really want to have a conversation. That's a little different than will not make eye contact and is waiting for you to go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of different. Especially when you're, you know, paying $60-$80 for an autograph. I think at the very least you can make eye contact, say hello, and smile. Like, and that's, you're right. You can't be on all the time. I don't think that's being on. I think that's just basic consideration. You know what I mean? Like, I expect that when I go to a Taco Bell. Like, so yeah, that was my issue. You know, when I met Michael Dorn.
Sorry if those of you watching are working at Taco Bell. We do not hate Taco Bell.
No,
fans.
No. I'm saying smile if you're at the counter at Taco Bell.
I know.
At least once. At least, you know, just say hello. That's all I'm asking for. But I also understand that I don't know what was going on with him that day. So that may have been the last moment in that day that he wanted to talk to anybody. Like, I sympathize with that. We've all had that. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely days where I don't even want to see anybody. So
Carl Maxey, you still go to Taco Bell? I mean, once in a blue moon. I was just the first thing that came to mind. Grocery store, Target, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Jay Forever King.
That's a name I don't recognize. Welcome. Hi there.
Neither do I. Welcome.
What can I do you for? Welcome to Taco Bell.
Hey, Cap, I started reading the Buffy comics from Boom.
Yeah.
And they're good so far.
Aren't they interesting?
Have you read any Angel? Always like that show more.
Yeah, me too. I read both Buffy and Angel up to where they stopped publishing when the virus happened, and I didn't get around to doing a review. I kind of want to go back and read those and talk about them. But yeah, so I did read Angel as well. My main complaint about that series, I think it's pretty good. I think it's kind of rushing some things. It's interesting, some of the stuff that it gets to from later seasons. That it's doing, you know, right away, right at the very beginning. It's interesting that Buffy and Angel don't have, minor spoilers for the series, don't have a romance of any kind before she finds out that he's a vampire, and when she finds that out, she kind of immediately hates him and doesn't trust him, and it makes you wonder how that will ever happen, or if that can ever happen. So I'm curious about that dynamic. I could see it becoming not cool and awful, and there may have been a few issues come out since I stopped, or at least a couple, so I don't know how exactly they're handling that, but the art is fantastic in both of those series, I think, and I was certainly enjoying it. It's funny, a lot of it's not sticking with me great, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if I've just read and watched a lot of stuff since then. I can't speak a whole lot more to it, but I've given it one pass through, and was certainly intrigued by it. It's doing what I wanted DJ Power Rangers to do, where it's a straight up reboot. And it's playing with all the toy box in the box, but mixing them up a little bit and modernizing it. And so it's not doing that weird in between the raindrops thing that Power Rangers did. I think that would be a whole lot harder to do with Buffy, but it also feels like it's learning from some of Power Rangers' mistakes.
Nice.
And, just straight away going, we can go our own way and do whatever we want to do with this material by trying to, but still trying to stay pretty true to the spirit of it. It reads very Whedon-y. I think that first issue of Buffy is absolutely dynamite. Published by Boom, but I find it dynamite.
Perfect. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
I tip my imaginary hat to you. Next up is John Ty. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, some of these people are throwing out donations. I gotta give them something.
If you were
Thanks,
a citizen
everybody.
in the Marvel Universe,
Yeah.
would you vote yes or no on the Superhuman Registration Act?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that question.
Interesting.
And
Get
of
into
course,
politics. Get into fictional politics.
fictional politics. That's right. Those are the best kind.
I agree.
Because it's not so controversial that I don't feel like I can actually tell you how I would vote. You may read some of my real world politics into what I would say, but at least it's not a thing that's actually going on. And everybody that's read that or seen the Civil War movie has probably asked themselves that question. Of course, the movie does a much better job of making a good argument for both sides. The book more kind of vilifies one side, or at the very least makes one side just kind of not as intelligent and smart about it, and totally out of character with Iron Man. I would like to I don't know, I that is a thing where I see both sides of it. I don't know how I would vote. I think if I was debating about it, like in a public forum, I would say what we need is not a blanket statement law like this. What we need is not this form of legislation. What we need is a board or something that decides in each case whether it's okay for this person to be operating or if this person needs to get a license. I think it should kind of depend on how exactly they're operating, because you have, violent vigilantes, and I guess to some degree they all kind of have to be that because it's a comic book and you need dramatic action, so people got to punch each other, right? But in the real world, you can have citizens arrests and stuff. Like, I don't think in the real world it would make sense to have legislation that says you can't put on a mask and go citizens arrest a person that has actually done a crime. Like, I don't think you can say, you can't go patrol your neighborhood wearing a costume. I think that would be a very strange law. So I would be weird about the ballot idea. I would say you need, it's not black or white. It's not one or the other. It's this person really needs to be, checked, and this person, we can wait and see if they do something crazy. So I guess I'm a little bit closer. I'm a little bit more on Captain America's side, where don't try to get out in front of it. But I also see the other side of that as well. So I don't know. I think it's a very tough call. Where do you land on that, DJ?
I think the interesting part of that question is he says if you were a citizen. So we kind of have to erase all the knowledge we have as a viewer of the movies, because the citizens don't get inside the characters' heads and they don't know them as people. And
yeah, sure.
So we wouldn't. You would just be seeing kind of the damage that they've done and hearing the good things they've done. So you would have a very jigsaw puzzle picture of who they really are. So it'd be a lot harder to go Cap. Like I obviously in the movie, I've grown with these people for 10 years and I want to side with Cap, but I think it would be a lot different if I was just a normal person in that universe.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like your biases would be different, but and maybe it would even change how you looked at your own convictions, like what your ethics are. But some of it boils down to whether you're an ends-based, more of an ends-based person, definitely, and more of a virtue-based person. And I see myself, generally speaking, as more of a virtue-based person, where things are right or wrong regardless of the outcome, generally speaking. But that's not to say that I never look at things utilitarian either. There are times, of course, where I'm going to go, well, if if it means 50,000 people die, maybe I wouldn't do that, even if, maybe I have to adjust, or not adjust my convictions, but make a personal moral sacrifice, because the stakes are too high. Again, case by case, it just depends on, what exactly that is. So if I'm living in that universe, I may have that where, like, my values tell me, maybe don't get out in front of it. Maybe it's important for people to be allowed to do the right thing, even if it, breaks some, seemingly arbitrary law or something. But if the stakes get too high, then I may feel somewhat differently about it. Also, it depends on the universe that you're living in. So if I'm in the MCU, DJ, I'm siding with Captain America because I think a lot of the, collateral damage and mistakes that allegedly the Avengers have made are kind of blown out of proportion in that movie. At the beginning, like, I wonder how much of certain things are really their fault. Some of it is, certainly, but they're acting like more has happened than has, because they did Civil War maybe a little bit earlier than if you had your druthers, if it could be like a long-running TV show, you would have. It'd be better if the Avengers had been on like 40 or 50 missions instead of like 4, right? But then in the comics, a little easier to see Iron Man's side if Iron Man's not grossly out of character. So yeah.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Next is from Carl.
That's
Maxey.
A great question. Yeah. Hi, Carl.
He said they started filming Scream 5. What do you think of this movie continuing this long? I'm assuming he means the franchise.
The franchise, yeah. I don't know. It's a franchise with a track record of mostly decent, okay movies that people have liked, I think. And so, of course, it continues to go because it's got name recognition and there's a fan base and people will go see it. Like, the cynical part of me says if they've performed before, at some point, inevitably, somebody's going to come back and make another one. So I'm not certainly surprised by that. But it's it's kind of odd because horror has been in kind of like sci-fi and TV lately in kind of a new renaissance, especially with Blumhouse movies and stuff. So there's kind of the question of whether you still need a franchise like Scream to keep like making fun of the formula and the tropes and deconstructing that whole thing. I'd love to see a new version kind of get into more of what modern horror is doing, because that does watch, and I haven't watched the later Scream movies, but Watch is a little bit played out for me where like the slasher movie has gotten a little bit smarter in the last several years, at least of what I have seen. And so the idea that is completely played out, I think we've actually kind of proven is not necessarily the case. We've started making movies with smarter protagonists and people that you actually care more about, and that can subvert your expectations without just making fun of everything you've seen before and going and blatantly going, look, it was exactly the same kind of movie you've seen a million times before until the last 5 minutes. So I'm not surprised by that, but I hope it finds a clever way to do something different with it and isn't just making all the same points that Scream has made before. I watched a few episodes of the TV show a couple years ago in an airport in Paris after I went to Germany because they had that on Netflix there, and I don't think it was here yet, or if it was, I hadn't noticed it. But I was like, oh, look, this is here. I guess I'll watch this. And it was okay. I enjoyed what I saw of it. I don't remember much about it now, but anyway. Yes, I occasionally watch things that I don't review. It's rare, but it happens.
What? Unsubscribed.
I just have a review in my brain and no one else ever gets to see it.
Here's 559.
Oh, real quick, before we get any farther, DJ,
Sure.
I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show that we are doing After Dark tonight.
Yes!
So if you are a patron or want to become a patron, just $2 a month gets you access to that. And
You're watching the Scream TV show.
No, that's not what we're doing. It'll be no, stop it. I think after the last one, people are probably going to want us to wait at least a couple shows before we do that again. And that was the worst. We did our level best to make that blind commentary entertaining.
Oh my goodness, that was hard.
But anyway,
Definitely a challenge, but I think we nailed it.
so yeah, we'll be doing an unlisted live show that is accessible only to patrons, but you can watch it, of course, after the fact as a patron if you can't make it live. We'll have a 15-minute break in between the two shows, and then we'll come back and do that for you. And tonight we're going to do a complete Q&A show, so we're not going to have segments, and we're not going to be doing any commentaries. We're just doing Q&A, and we're going to go back to the archives and answer some questions from previous Captain Logan shows that are most suited for After Dark, and also some other questions that folks have asked me on the Secret Superhero Screen Society and Patreon today. So that's my quick plug for that. Let's move on. Did you have a question from 5590ERS? I think I nailed that. Did I get that? I think I nailed it.
Totally did. That is 100% correct. And he wants to know, worst Superman comic you've ever read.
Wow. Superman tends to be mediocre before it's terrible. And so I've read a lot of Superman comics that just haven't stuck with me. A lot of writers find it difficult to make Superman interesting and nuanced and not just kind of a slugfest. So I'm struggling to come up with just like something like absolutely horrendous. I've definitely watched more bad Superman, on screen than I have read bad Superman. I'm not happy with what I read at the beginning of Bendis. I hate to throw Bendis under the bus because generally speaking, I like him as a writer, but his run was really kind of awful. I thought when I read of it, and maybe it got better, but I jumped ship on that pretty early. So like a couple in. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I've definitely read worse Superman stuff than that. There's the infamous like blue electro suit from the late 90s. A lot of those stories are not good. There's a lot of like follow-up Death of Superman stuff where we just couldn't get away from that. That was kind of awful. Superman in the late 90s is pretty dreadful. And World at War was not. Was it World at War? Is that what it was called? I forget. That stuff was it with like squinty-eyed Superman. I think that was Jeff Loeb stuff. That was not good either. So there's a few things, but yeah.
There's a few terrible things. Check him out. Next one.
Hey, Cap, could you recommend bad Superman?
Recommend.
No, I can't recommend bad things. I can tell you they exist and try to get you to avoid them. But as we've learned from AVGN, anybody on YouTube that has an audience that tells you not to look at something, invariably somebody is going to go look at it.
Oh, yes, definitely. Next up, we have a hilarious question from John Ty. Would you rather raise the TMNT?
Hi, John.
Or all four Robins?
Wait, rather what now? Oh, raised like as a father? John, I must applaud that question. That's amazing.
Amazing.
I have in 115 shows never gotten a question like that. That's amazing. Whenever I hear John Ty's name, I'm expecting to have to take like an essay test. About like philosophy or something, and then suddenly he comes up with that. That's amazing. Okay, so the Ninja Turtles or all four Robins. So are you saying like simultaneously, like all the Robins?
Yes, I guess at the same time. Yeah.
They're the same age at the same time somehow. It's like all the Robins at Damian Wayne's age or the Ninja Turtles. Is that what you're saying? I think the Ninja Turtles would be easier to raise, even though they're not human, and you can't, at least if you look at it like Splinter does, you can't let them go out all the time. You got to raise them in a sewer. I guess both cases you're raising them subterranean. But with the Turtles, at least they don't have the kind of emotional baggage that at least 3/4 of the Robins do, and each of them has like a different thing. So just imagine that, like. None of them, or at least half of them, are not particularly well adjusted. Like probably at that age, and so it would be difficult to raise them. Any kids like that anyway, to have to raise them together where they're all brothers, that makes it even harder. And then if you're trying to raise them to be crime fighters and make them grow up faster than they would otherwise, now you just have a near impossible task. Like, it's sort of like trying to homeschool your kids but never sending them anywhere to get any like socialization. Like, it's an impossible task. I don't know how you could be raised by Batman and have anything like a normal life, or even, I don't know, like, it's amazing that Dick Grayson, it seems to be as happy as he is post being with Batman. So I don't know, I think it would be easier to raise the Ninja Turtles, even though they're mutants. That should be harder. I don't think it is. They don't have the kind of trauma that Batman does. It might be as difficult or more difficult to live in their world and deal with constantly having your lair attacked by the Foot Clan, and if you're Splinter, you're also getting kidnapped constantly. That might make it less conducive to be a parent. But yeah, I do. Do you agree with that, DJ? I think raising the Turtles is way easier than raising Robin.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. There's so many different ways that you can go with that question. I mean, are you raising them as Splinter or Batman, or are you raising them as yourself?
Just yourself? Yeah. Just, if they don't have to be Robins.
If you're just yourself, it might be a little easier to raise 4 human beings than 4 turtles, if there's no crime-fighting element involved. But I have no idea what his intention was with that question. Probably just to make us ramble like we're doing. So, good job, John Ty. Nailed it.
Well, I hope I've done my job. All right, go ahead, DJ.
All right, Bag Studios. Have you seen Unforgiven? Just finished it and absolutely loved it. What are some of both of your guys' favorite westerns? Y'all rock on. See ya at After Dark. We'll see you there too, sir.
Yeah, we'll be there. Except it'll look exactly like it does. I should change like the color scheme or something just to be like, yeah, it's After Dark. Black? It'll just be this. That'll do more than that. I should do more than that. Anyway. Okay. So, DJ, have you seen very many westerns?
No. I don't think I've seen probably any. Is Magnificent Seven a western?
Yes, it is. Magnificent Seven's on my list. I just watched that for the first time a few weeks ago and loved it.
Yeah.
My wife is a giant fan of that. And the original, right?
Yes.
Because I've not seen the new one. People said good things about that. I thought it
I've seen that one too.
Was it any good? No.
Not a western guy, so I don't know if it was like calling back to anything. It was like a fun action movie. I don't know. It was all right. Vincent D'Onofrio was great in it. And,
it looked too much like a kind of standard formulaic plug and play actioner to me with the previews, and I hadn't seen the original, so I didn't have that to compare it to. But then I heard people say it was surprisingly better than that. So I don't know.
It was good what it was.
True Grit, I loved the remake, and I've not seen the original. And then my actual favorite western, though I've not watched it in a very long time, is High Noon. I've mentioned that before. I saw that in an academic setting in college, so I watched that just in a class, but I loved it. And then recently, I want to start watching John Wayne movies because I've not seen hardly any, and I'm not a big Western person, but I'm starting to appreciate them. I don't know why, DJ. As I'm getting older, Westerns are a thing that I'm finding more appealing than I did when I was a kid. But that was just a setting I didn't care about. Sort of like war movies. And I still have that with war movies, where it fatigues and stuff. It's just a setting I cannot get excited about. But for whatever reason, I'm kind of, and I can't think of any particular like property or show or movie or something I got into that makes me like westerns more. It does feel like it's just getting older, and it's not just Logan, because I had this even before Logan. I think I appreciated Logan more because I like westerns more than I used to. But like with certain other things, like I had to see Lost before I didn't have this kind of aversion to things set on an island. Like I used to have that, where it's like, I don't want to watch stuff on an island. And then I got into Lost, and I'm like, I'm not suddenly like a huge fan of those things, but it doesn't turn me off anymore, like it used to. But I can't think of like the Western thing that did that for me. I don't know what that would be. But anyway, so I watched a John Wayne movie called McClintock with an exclamation point. He plays a guy named McClintock, and it is one of the absolute he says McClintock, and then he transforms into this Western hero with a hat. No,
it's a much harder catchphrase to whip out right as the villains are coming at you.
And they just look at each other. Why are you saying that? It sounds like a Klingon word. What do you? McClintock is one of the most tonally uneven messes I've ever seen in any genre. It's absolutely nuts. It is sometimes a complete slapstick farce, and sometimes is taking itself completely seriously. And it has a couple of really good speeches and decent scenes. There's this crazy scene where like I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if he slaps the young kid in that, or if he slaps a girl, what it is. But you're like, whoa! And then it was an interesting scene. And then there's just places where there are two slapstick places that might as well have been food fights, where they're like fighting in oil or something. You're like, what is happening? With like jokey, dancey, silly music in the background. Sort of like Trouble Tribbles. And you're just like, what is happening?
And then a cake falls on his head.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I had the exact same thing.
But that would have worked better because at least in Power Rangers there's a bulk and skull that make those scenes happen. And this, it's just, and now it's a comedy scene, and now it's not. Anyway, somebody in the comments has also seen McClintock and says it's supposed to be a comedy, but it is a bit tonally off. Yeah, it was weird. It's a weird movie.
Cool. What you're saying was those food fights were much funnier because you weren't expecting them, because you were in a very serious mood.
That's exactly what I'm saying. There weren't food fights. I'm just saying they might as well have been food fights. They're that sort of scene.
Okay. Back Studios. Next up, nope, that was the one I just read. You're fired, DJ. John Ty. You were in...
Are you having schizophrenia? Wait, are you having, not schizophrenia, are you having like a multiple personalities thing where you're both yourself and me? And if that happens, does that mean that sometimes when I'm talking, you think you're talking and you're having an out-of-body experience?
Oh, 100%. There's like a Norma Bates version of you that I see all the time.
Oh, no. You may want to seek professional help.
Oh, man. John Ty, if you were in Spider-Man's situation in one more day, would you have taken the agreement with Mephisto?
Short answer is no.
All right, moving on.
What about you, DJ? I mean, like,
I don't know the agreement. You gotta tell it to me. I just know that it's horrible. That's all I know about it.
If memory
I know he had to give up Mary Jane, but I don't know what the other.
I think it was to save Aunt May. If memory serves, that's where I was. Yeah, and I mean, I know it sounds awful, but like, the problem is doing that after you've kept this character around forever, and she keeps almost dying or sort of dying, right? Like, we expected Aunt May to get killed off back in the 70s. Like, why is she even still around at that point?
She should have just keeled over on her own.
Sure. However she ends up the writer, DJ, kills her off by saying heart attack, right? Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I would not do that. That is a more difficult decision. Well, I say a more difficult decision. It's actually not a hard decision, but the decision goes entirely the other way. If it's something like, your son that just got born or something, you've got a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old, and like either he can live or you can keep your relationship with Mary Jane and she can keep her memories. Like at that point, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know that sounds kind of cold and awful, but yeah,
that's
she's
crazy.
old.
I would think that Aunt May would also want him to make that choice. Would she not? Like, why would she want him to give up his whole life?
Well, exactly, and they should have had a conversation about it. But the problem with writing that conversation is that the only thing that would make sense in her character would for her to say, no, you have your whole life ahead of you, relatively. I mean, he's in his 30s, but you have your whole life ahead of you. I want you to live a good life. I've already had my life. And the problem is because it was mandated from on high, and the whole reason JMS is forced to write that story in the first place, and it famously wanted his name off of it, was to come up with some sort of contrivance, some sort of plot device, so that he could, lose the marriage and not have and be aged back and stuff. So that wouldn't have happened. What you'd have to do is, if you had that conversation, then he just does it anyway, and it would make him, I don't know, maybe less sympathetic. So yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know anything about it except for what we just talked about, and I also say it sucks.
Well, it does.
T-Edge 1. with a $50 super chat.
Wow, goodness. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, craziness.
What's up, man?
I don't know, but I'm going to read it very
Do you need me to
carefully.
mow your lawn or something? Like...
I don't. You just got paid. John Adams was a farmer. Abraham Lincoln, a small-town lawyer. Plato and Socrates were teachers. Jesus was a carpenter.
Thank you for this educational experience. Yeah, Jesus.
To equate
I want this to end without a question. I want this just to be a lecture about history.
He says, to equate wisdom and judgment with an occupation is at best insulting. All of that is one of my favorite quotes. What are some of yours?
First of all, what is that a quote from? I'm not immediately familiar with that, and maybe everybody in the comments is gonna jump down my throat and be like, "Yeah, but obviously it's this thing." Do you recognize that right away, DJ?
I mean, it sounds familiar, but I don't
Slightly.
immediately.
I don't right off know what that is. I felt like I was getting a trivia quote. $50 super chat, but I'm gonna find some way to revoke it if you don't know where it's from.
Yeah. So favorite quotes. I'm so terrible at this. I never think of them until like later.
Yeah, they come to you in a context, right? It's hard to whole cloth pull out, great. And it sounds like you're wanting like great dramatics, like that's more like a great dramatic speech kind of thing. I have a hard time not immediately going to speeches from Picard and TNG, and a little bit in the movies, I guess, but especially TNG. The Matter of Time speech is I think some of the best writing on television. In anything where he's talking about how the future hasn't been written yet, and he's talking to a time traveler who he thinks is from the future, and says, from my point of view, he said I don't give a damn about your future because your future because my past is your future and it hasn't been written yet. And that's strike that, reverse it. It's a great speech. But anyway,
he says
outside of Star Trek,
with another super chat. He told us it's from Sci-Fi's Warehouse 13, which is why I recognize it because I saw the first 3 seasons.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, I used to like that show a lot. I would say to Tom, have you ever seen the Librarian movies? Because they're basically the same thing. Warehouse 13 was just like the Librarian movies, but a show. They're not high-budget movies or anything, but they're kind of like Indiana Jones, that kind of style. But yeah, Warehouse 13 is great. They bring in Jimmy Olsen from Smallville in the 4th season. But that's where I jumped off. So
you know what? I knew that because I saw an interview with him once where he was talking about that. Now that you say that, that's Aaron Ashmore, not Sean Ashmore, but Aaron. Yeah, the other Ashmore. Yeah.
So yeah, I like that show. I did not remember that quote verbatim, but it did sound familiar to me.
I am blanking on just brilliant speeches.
This is a thing for me. Like I always want to be the guy who, like, as I'm reading, I write down a quote that I like, and I just have like a list of quotes on my phone that I like periodically look through, and I just want to be a quote guy, and I just want to be the guy that can like whip stuff out when the situation calls for it, like the Jeff. But I never do it. so I guess I'm a failure.
Somebody in the comments, Blue Dragon 5 mentions the Jor-El quote from Superman 1. They can be a great people. I think part of the reason I tend to blank with this is I've talked about so many superhero movie quotes that immediately I go, I need to go some other direction for this. I gotta go some other place. And like I'm trying to think of profundities, just like straight up movie quotes, things that come up all the time. Obviously, a lot of stuff in Willy Wonka. DJ and I are constantly doing the "you get nothing" speech. That's absolutely fabulous. I can do tick stuff. I can do tick stuff, of course, all day long. Man was not meant to tamper with any of the 4 basic food groups. I can do that all day long. I think Ben Edlund is one of the most brilliant and underappreciated writers of the 20th century.
Yeah, I can quote Willy Wonka all day. We got to do that commentary at some point.
We do.
Nonsense every now and then.
Oh, that's a good one too, Lucas Green.
The wisest man.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last. Yeah, that was really good.
All right.
Noah O says every line from Batman '89, right, Cap? Yes, absolutely. All kinds of stuff from Lex and Smallville, particularly in those first couple of seasons. Here's one from that. Lex's my father may want to rule the world, but yours will inherit the earth speech. That's killer.
There we go. I think we navigated around it pretty well. Mr. Roboto.
You get nothing! Sorry, go ahead.
You lose, sir!
You lose, sir!
You lose. Good day, sir! Alright, Mr. Roboto.
Real quick. Sorry. Talk about Willy Wonka. I showed, because I'm gonna do a review of that soon, and I was watching that with my son Freddie, who hadn't seen it, and Sarah and the other kids were out, and so he and I were there by ourselves. He's getting his Willy Wonka box apparently, and so Freddie and I were back by ourselves, and
there's no knowing where we're going.
So I decided to show that to Freddie, and Freddie he's weird with movies sometimes. He's my 5-year-old, and he wasn't in the mood to watch a movie. He was just like every 20 minutes, like, is it almost over, Dad? Like, I want to go play video games or whatever. And he didn't really react much to stuff until we get into the factory. And then when you get on the staircase and Willy Wonka keeps taking his stick and stopping everybody where they're trying to go down the stairs, and he stops them, and then he brings it back up.
Hilarious.
Freddie lost his mind at that. He thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And now, whenever we get on a staircase, I do that to him. We'll be like he's following behind me. We'll be walking down the stairs. I'll just stop. Craig just loses his mind. He thinks this is the funniest thing in the world. It makes me want to carry around a cane all the time.
Oh, you should. Anyway.
Yeah, just as I feel like the older I get, the easier it's gonna be to get away with that. I feel like in my 50s I could totally get away with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the top hat and everything.
I couldn't have done it at 28. I think 36 is still kind of pushing it, but I mean, I'm getting close to being able to do that. Just carry around a cane. Maybe not a top hat, but at least a cane.
Rachmaninoff. Mr. Roboto is up next he says...
No! Sorry. No, Liam Purcell. He was not scared of the boat scene. He thought that was awesome.
Of course.
That did not freak him out at all.
We got Generation Z.
Yeah, we got to the end of that scene, and he just goes, "Dad, that was the coolest." Yeah, he loved that. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Chicken's getting their head cut off. That's one of the... Do you remember that, how it should have ended?
I haven't seen that in a long time.
He's like, whose idea was the tunnel? And then it cuts back, and he's like super drunk on candy, and he's like, we should put in a tunnel. It's like bugs crawling on people's faces and chickens getting their head cut off. It'll be great. All right, next up, finally, Mr. Roboto's question will be answered. Damien Hellstrom is getting a show. Thoughts on lesser-known Marvel character shows like WandaVision, etc.?
Well, yeah, it's funny you say lesser-known shows, because, I mean, I think WandaVision will be pretty big. Because, like, those are... I guess in those movies, they're B-list compared to Captain America and Iron Man, but mark my words, that's going to be a big A-list sort of show. Like, I don't think that's going to feel off the beaten path. But the whole Damon Hailstrom thing, it'll be interesting to see if anybody immediately watches that, or gets what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly to say about it. The obvious thing to say is, as long as they're good, it's cool they're getting made. There's a lot of stuff that we've tried like that has just been kind of mediocre or just didn't get any traction. Nobody talked about Freeform's, partly because that's the stupidest name for a network. Nobody talked about Freestorm's Cloak and Dagger after that pilot. I don't know if it stayed okay or not. I thought the pilot was fine for that kind of a thing, but yeah, I mean, we're still just milking the superhero train for all it's worth. I mean, DC is doing the exact same thing with Stargirl and things like that, and people seem to be liking that show okay. So yeah, I mean, I hope they're good. It doesn't seem like you have to be a really well-known character already for people to watch you if the I want to say if there's not much else like you on, you gotta kind of try to find a niche that's not there already right now in superhero stuff, or just have a really good marketing campaign, or have somebody in your show that people care about. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes before the superhero train is not as profitable as it seems, or perceived to be potentially as profitable as it has been for a long time.
Yeah, the lesser known off the beaten path ones seem to be my favorite usually. Like Umbrella Academy and Legion are two of my favorites.
And people are loving The
And
Boys,
those are
and most
weird
of the people
shows.
watching that show, they had never heard of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, same. Lucas Green. Hi, Cap and DJ. I know
Hello.
you like many types of heroes. Do you find the character of Ben 10 in any way an interesting type of hero? With kid/teen AE to turn into many cool forms with a lot against him.
I've never seen that show. That comes up occasionally. Big fans of that show. So sorry, but I just don't have anything to say about that. I've never watched it. That as a premise doesn't immediately grab me, but a lot of that is probably my age and stuff. Although when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, I didn't really latch on to teenage heroes. Like I feel like that
Static Shock.
Yeah, like I don't dislike Static Shock, but I didn't actively watch it. Yeah, I wasn't into the teenage superheroes. I had to get a lot older before I even cared about Buffy, and that was only through Angel. So you know, I had to watch the show about the 200-year-old vampire before I cared about the 16-year-old vampire slaying chick. You know, so yeah, I guess
I think I have the same thing really, because even though Spider-Man's my favorite superhero, I grew up with the '90s show.
I don't think of him as a
Spider-Man,
kid. Yeah,
I didn't think of him.
And I
as
like that we're doing that now with him, because I've gone back as an adult and read the early Stan Lee stuff, and I now appreciate that in a way I didn't when I was younger. But I was always looking up to adults and wanting to grow up faster. That was my personality. So I guess as an adult, it's even harder for me to go back and, you know, get excited about, you know, teenage superheroes and like even X-Men. Like the appeal for me was like, I appreciated the metaphor. I guess I was more interested in the kind of, you know, racism bigotry metaphor thing, because it was an interesting way to do that, and kind of creative, than I was the you know, the puberty metaphor. Because my favorite characters were the adults. You know, I liked Wolverine and Professor X. I didn't care about the kids, you know. I didn't know who Kitty Pryde was until I was in my 20s.
I also like I grew up with Teen Titans, that show, but they're like not even teenagers. They live like by themselves in a tower. And so I don't think of them as, even though it's Teen Titans, but they don't really act like teenagers.
Yeah, Young Justice is like that too, right? Like, and I love that show, but they seem like young adults before they seem like kids to me. And so yes, there's that coming of age thing, and they've got something to prove, but you know, it's more like the 20-something something to prove before it's, you know, the 16.
Yeah, and I don't know much about Ben 10. I think he has like a watch that like he can turn into like 10 different monsters, like shapeshift into them. Is that what it is? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what that is. It sounds like one half of the Wonder Twins.
Hey, he's got a leg up on that. He doesn't need a twin to do it.
Yeah, but he can't turn into water. He can only do the animal part. He doesn't have the. And like the whole Beast Boy thing never really appealed to me. But it's funny because I mean I guess everybody's a hypocrite in some way, because you know I say that I love the Animorphs, and that was teenagers, that was kids.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what hits you at a certain age. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it really.
I love Power Rangers. That's teenagers.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Well, if you call 30-year-olds and baggy 90s jeans.
And as you guys know, I was a huge fan of Smallville, but I didn't relate to Clark. I related to Lags.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Lucas Green. I keep doing that. I got to check that one off. That's the one I just read. Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? I don't understand this. Actually, I think he retracted this, so I don't know if he wants me to read this. But...
Okay. Well, if he retracted it, maybe don't read it.
Yeah, Mr. Roboto, let me know if you want me to read that one that you wrote about the welder, because I saw that you retracted it, but
DJ,
I'll keep it here.
We've only got 3 minutes before we get to an hour, and I want to make sure we don't go too late tonight since we've got After Dark. How many more? I don't like the counting you're doing right now.
It's just 13.
Are you serious? It's 13. We've got Warehouse 13.
They missed us, man.
All right, well, guys, thanks so much for the support. We certainly appreciate it. We will give all of that its due, but as quickly as humanly possible. I'm gonna try to at least not go past 8:30 if at all possible.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do this.
Because Brandon's gonna be here by then, and he's gonna be sitting around waiting for us to finish. So, although if we still have super chats, we'll just bring him in. But yeah,
just come on in, man. William Parcell, what do you think Batman's view on other heroes killing should be. It's something that seems a bit inconsistent at times.
Boy, it's so easy for me to constantly say it depends, but it does. it really depends on the version of Batman we're talking about. I like a Batman that says my no killing rule applies to me, and it's about my own hang-ups and psychology, and there are things that that I recognize that other heroes can, when the time arises and the situation calls for it, for self-defense, for defending other people, not just like Batman will sometimes do, let a person die. I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you. Not that situation. Batman, in order to save another person, would probably not, even if it was right next to him, pick up a revolver and shoot somebody in the head. He probably wouldn't do that. He'd be too scared of that. A darker traditional Batman, or at least the one I grew up with, the kind of 80s, 90s Batman, seems to not totally trust his own mental stability. And so he is afraid that if he does the thing that killed his parents, it hits too close to home and would transform him into the monster that he kind of walks in, having to be a little bit of that in order to fight crime, but that's the line he won't cross. I like a Batman that says, I don't know how often we even see this, Superman, if you get in a situation where you feel like this person has to die in order to save a lot of people, I know you won't lose yourself. I know that you won't turn into a crazy despot because you did that. I like a Batman that holds himself to somewhat different standards. Very often what you get is one that doesn't really think about other people in general. It just tries to do everything himself, and so anyone that he does allow into his world and will let fight crime without trying to stop them, he holds them to the same standards and makes them do the same, with the same rules. I've never loved that, to be honest with you. Or that's a place I'd love to see Batman, have kind of an opportunity for change and take, where it's like, I realize that I'm not like everybody else. That's part of why I'm able to do what I do. So my standards have to be different than other people's standards.
Cool. Next up from Lucas Green, on another note, Cap, looking forward to superhero rewinds. The remaining Thor movies, Arkham Knight, and Spidey PS4. Keep it up, Cap. I know you'll do cool.
Yeah, thanks. I'll do my level best. It's been a while since I've written a rewind. Like I said on Tuesday, I have plans for doing more of that pretty soon. I don't want to promise a date that those will start coming up or say how often they will. I put out a video a few months ago saying they're just going to come when they come, and I am certainly sticking to that. But because of vacation and other projects I'm working on and things, I just have not been able to get any of those written. I am going to unveil a project that I've been working on in lieu of that in the not-too-distant future. I don't know when yet, and you guys will see why I have not been writing rewinds. And hopefully some of you guys will get a kick out of it. But I don't want to announce what that is yet. DJ knows what it is. It's gonna be interesting posting that and seeing how much interest there is in it. But that is gonna go up. I'm gonna need time to revise it. So I don't know when that's coming, but I'm in the middle of it, and it's going well. So
that's awesome, man.
That's all I'll say right now.
Doing that. All right, Azim. As a cinematic concept, what are your thoughts on a prison drama starring supervillains? The Arkham Redemption, perhaps.
I mean, I don't know about that as a title, but yeah, I guess that could be cool. I don't know. It seems like it would be difficult not to just make that kind of Suicide Squad the show. And I don't know how like a redemptive Arkham series would work. Would it be like, every few episodes somebody just is okay now in the head and gets to leave Arkham and go like have a normal life? Or would it be like, life and times of people in Arkham, and the ones that are supposed to be sympathetic that we're following most are sort of like dead, like Joe Kelly's Deadpool, where they're trying really hard to become more well-adjusted, but they're just incapable of doing that. Where it's sort of like a thing about it's sort of an anti-hero thing, but it's like people who want to be good people but are incapable of it. But what makes them endearing is that they're trying. So it's not like good people who or were good but snapped. It's not like a Walter White thing. It's like people who are so far gone they can't be redeemed, but the fact that they want to might mean that we're wrong about that, and they could be to some degree. You know, it's sort of like the Data wants to be human, so does that make him human thing? There's maybe a story there. So yeah, sure. It's not a bad idea.
John Ty, should the big two always go back to the status quo in their comic book continuities?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Should the big two always go back to the status quo in their comic book continuities?
Always go back to the status quo. Well, it's hard to say because, I mean, looking at the franchises we have right now, with Marvel, I would make the case that the status quo keeps changing in pretty cool and interesting ways. Every few movies we shake things up, and unlike a lot of comic events, DJ, they actually stick and they kind of matter. So I mean, like, you know, you get not that many movies in before you find out, spoiler alert, that S.H.I.E.L.D. was Hydra all along, and, you know, that shakes things up and changes stuff. So, you know, we're constantly changing status quo there. So unless you full-on rebooted, I don't even know how to answer that for MCU. I don't know what the status quo is. I mean, it's constantly changing and evolving. That's happening with DC too for completely other reasons, because we kind of keep hitting reset buttons trying to get, trying to make that appeal to people. So yeah, I guess my answer is no, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah. This is from DTW.
I hope I answered that right. I hope I understood what you were asking, but yeah.
He did say in comic book continuities.
He said comic. I thought he said movie continuities. Okay.
Yeah. Should the big two always go back to the status quo in their comic book continuities?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if there was like a hiccup in my headset or what, but I completely misheard that. Okay. Okay. In comics, that's such a complicated question. I think the better way to do it than what we have been is just try to be as... It's complicated. Try to be as organic as humanly possible in the changes in the continuity. We keep kind of forcing it. So we'll either do a big giant shake-up with a big event and force everything after that to be in this completely different, crazy, topsy-turvy, turned-over world, right? Or we'll do a big gimmicky event, everybody will buy it, and then nothing has changed at all after that. To some degree, you can't get too far away from the core of the status quos for any particular character, especially major characters, because people are going to lose interest and always want to get back to that, unless you supplant it with something that becomes as iconic, which has not happened in a long time with major characters. But, you get things like Frank Miller on Daredevil, where that gets very far away from the original status quo of Daredevil, because he transformed Daredevil into almost a different thing that people liked more than what was there before. That's happened with X-Men, arguably, a couple of times, etc. So you don't want to... You don't want to constantly hit the reset button and make it so that the last stuff that everybody read doesn't matter and you wasted all their time and money. But at the same time, sometimes you can take a character like Superman in arcs that people are in stories that people are really liking, like the new Krypton stuff in the 2000s, and it's really hard to go anywhere from now that didn't end well either, but you can have a thing that almost should have been an Elseworld story in the first place, because it's really hard to come back from, and that's happened a lot with Superman. So I mean, it's a hard question to answer. I think for the sake of readership, yeah, you kind of have to, but I think you end up you end up sacrificing good storytelling quite a bit for it. So I don't know.
Cool. So Mr. Roboto did get to me. He said not to read the super chat that he wrote, but he did give us a $2 donation. So thanks for that, Mr.
Thanks,
Roboto.
Man. Appreciate it. What else?
DTWO98. Favorite foreign film? Mine is Cinema Paradiso.
Wow. I need to think just a second. The first thing that comes to mind is Danger Diabolic. That is probably my favorite foreign superhero film. Beyond that,
Yeah, I don't know if I can say my favorite, but the first thing that came to my mind was Troll Hunter,
yeah,
which is a movie that
that's great.
Kat and Eric did
That's a great movie.
Netflix roulette on, and it's basically, I really like fairy tale stuff and fairy tale lore and fairy tales themselves, and it's basically like breaks down it's a Swedish film, right? Or is it Norwegian? Breaks down like the Norwegian.
I think it's Norwegian, isn't it?
Fairy tale, yeah. Fairy tales, like the fairy tales of trolls, but it's like filmed as a documentary, like a fake documentary about a guy who hunts trolls, and it like breaks down all the science of like why they turn to stone in sunlight and why some of them explode, and it's really cool. I love it.
Oh yeah, Bag, that's true. Captain Invincible is Australian, so I can definitely put that on the list. My favorite, one of, if not, well, maybe not my favorite, but one of my favorite film soundtracks of all time is the soundtrack from Amelie, but that movie I found kind of odd. Wasn't sure how I felt about it. Run Lola Run is like that. But yeah, Fritz Lang's Metropolis. That's a foreign film.
Yeah, I've been watching through all of the Studio Ghibli movies on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Of the ones I've seen so far, I really like My Neighbor Totoro, and also, funnily enough, the one we just finished today, I really, really enjoyed. It's like a vignette short comedy film of shorts. It's called My Neighbors the Yamadas. It's kind of like the Peanuts,
interesting,
but it's about this family, and it like breaks down like the mundane and problems that a family goes through, and it's really funny. I was cracking up, so I really like that one.
Well, what else we got?
We got John Ty with another one. Which X-Men character would be best for Jean Grey to be in a romantic relationship with, Cyclops or Wolverine?
I would kind of like to see the Wolverine thing done without Cyclops sometime. That would make it a lot easier for me to make that choice, you know? Like, if that's not a love triangle and she picks him in the first place, what is that relationship like? I have always been more interested in Wolverine as a character than Cyclops. That's just me personally. Just growing up, I latched on to Wolverine real hard and didn't read a whole lot of great stuff with Cyclops. So I'm more curious about them as a couple. But I don't think of Wolverine and Jean Grey as soulmates or anything, certainly. So yeah, I guess I would have to see it done well, in something, in a way that I haven't before I could make that decision. Because of course, Jean and Cyclops are a great comic power couple and a lot of stuff. But
yeah, TH1, sorry. He was just talking to us earlier when we were talking about the Librarian films. He said he's seen a little bit of one of them. Daddy Longlegs pops in for his first one. Have you guys started the Umbrella Academy yet? Not yet. I have one episode left of season 1. I'm doing a rewatch before I start season 2. So me and my wife are watching through that. So one left, and then I will start season 2, sir.
Okay. So DJ, this is just gonna be us planning things again on camera. But do you want to attempt to do a review before you get into 2, or do you want to just like do a spoiler cast for 2 and kind of talk about 1 in 2, or?
Hey, it's up to you. I don't know. I'll talk about it. It's a show I really like.
Because I didn't realize you were that close to finishing it, and people have asked us to do that for months, so I should probably get on that. Unfortunately, I have 3 other shows I have to review this weekend, so I don't know when I'm going to get to it. But
yeah, I'm curious to see what you think of the show. It kind of does a lot of it kind of repeats a lot of themes and like things that happen in a lot of other superhero screen stuff, but I think it does it better in a lot of cases, and it's pretty unique, I think. So
one of the reasons I was waiting on it was I wanted to read that first comic mini, and I just didn't get around to it, and I still haven't done that either. So I wanted to kind of bring some knowledge of the comics to it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I have no idea how close it is. I wasn't really interested in reading the comics after watching it, but I don't know how close it is. I know Jeffrey read the comics, so maybe I'll ask Jeffrey about it, who just popped in and gave us a super chat to say,
oh, thanks, Jeffrey.
Howdy, Cap and DJ.
Let's talk about that later, DJ. We need to get that figured out. Anyway.
Good to see you, Jeffrey. Lucas Green, would you feel safe with Wonka around. This is when we were talking about Wonka earlier. Well, it depends on which Wonka, honestly.
No, it
Because,
doesn't. I wouldn't feel safe
second
with either
Wonka
of them, and I think that's kind of the
terrifying.
point, though.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the first one, he assures them that all the kids are fine and okay at the end. But at the end of the second movie, like, they're all screwed up. He's
That's true.
Crazy serial killer. Terrifying.
Yeah, but I mean, you never. Even by the end of that first movie, you get the sense that that guy is maybe a little unhinged. I don't mean that he's going around like murdering people, but like if you spend any amount of time with him, you don't know what he's capable of. You don't know if some of his eccentricities could end up turning bad on accident. Like trusting people's not always about are they going to murder someone or like molest a child or something. Sometimes it's more just I don't know, if I get on a motorcycle with this person, is he going to crash? Like I wouldn't want to get on a motorcycle with him. When he says, I don't know what's going to happen when we use the Wonkavator and go through the ceiling, I believe him. I don't think he does know. I think he's that out of touch. I think part of the reason he's getting rid of the factory is he doesn't necessarily trust himself anymore. Like he's that out of touch.
That's true. Lucas Green, would you give up the gobstopper for money for your family if you were in Charlie's shoes, or return it to Sweet Willy Wonka? Sweet Willy Wonka, he puts in quotes.
I think what would happen with me is even despite the Slugworth thing, there's so much other crazy stuff happening in that factory, both neat things you get to see and horrible traumatic stuff like kids falling through garbage chutes and things. I would completely forget it was even in my pocket. And then when I left the factory, I'd be like, oh, crud, now I have this moral decision to make. And I don't think I would give it to Slugworth, but I don't think I would have remembered to give it to Willy Wonka. That's my answer.
Also, how would you give it to Slugworth? He didn't give you his phone number or anything. How the heck are you going to find him?
Well, that's true, but I guess he just means all things being equal. Like if that guy was actually, running a conspiracy.
Yeah, if he was actually Slugworth and not Mr. What's his name? Anyway, Lucas Green.
Oh,
John
it's gonna
Todd.
come to me in a minute. I'm gonna know it in a second.
That's not Slugworth. He works for me.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Okay, John Ty, what happened to Adam Warlock in the MCU? He was at the end credits for the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Yeah, you kind of have to ignore the end credits for most of the Marvel movies.
You really do. You know that you're getting toward Infinity War eventually, and you go, well, of course they're adding Adam Warlock. That's gonna matter. Then it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. My guess is enough people will complain about that they'll retroactively put him in a Captain Marvel movie or something. In fact, I'm going to double down on that. Adam Warlock will show up in a Captain Marvel movie. That's my guess.
You heard it here, folks.
Mutali says he was blipped. Yeah, but everybody came back. Like,
not him. Not Mr. Warlock.
Oh, I guess he could be in Guardians 3. Mutali says that. Maybe that's even been reported. I don't remember. Okay, well, forget what I said. If he's not in Guardians 3, though, he'll show up in a Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But since
Tyler
that was
Parker-
Gunn clearly had an intention with that, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Gunn is almost certainly going to use him. I forgot all about that.
Okay. Well, you didn't hear it here. Well, you did hear it here, but he retracts it.
Yeah, I
Tyler
retract.
Parker. I love to see spoiler casts for Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, The Boys, and Umbrella Academy.
Me too.
They're all great shows.
I'm going to clone myself so that some other version of me can make those.
Yeah, good grief. That's a lot of shows.
Hopefully at some point I can get to those. My TV watching time is non-existent right now. I'm trying to figure out how to work some stuff in. So
Yeah, I have time to maybe watch one episode a day. If that. Tyler Parker got that one. Jeffrey Patron says howdy.
Hi,
and
man.
last
It's
one,
been a
John
while.
Ty. Would you rather be a dumb person or a morally bereft person?
oh, we're back to this sort of thing.
Would you rather?
Yeah, he's had some variation on this before, where it's like stupidity or something not like ethically okay. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd rather be dumb than do bad things to people. I guess that's a trade-off I would make.
Yeah.
Do you
I'm the
think?
Same. Ignorance is bliss.
Well, yeah, exactly. Especially if you were dumb enough you didn't realize you were dumb.
Yeah.
Or just all your
Well,
friends were nice enough not to tell you. I don't know.
What a weird way to end this episode.
That is. I can't think of any interesting way to elaborate on that. But we knocked out like 13 questions in 15 minutes, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, we did good. I'm just trying to look up the Willy Wonka quote that we're trying to remember. But anyway,
yeah, I was
we'll
wondering what
figure
you
it
were
out.
doing. DJ's preoccupied by something.
Sorry. I'm always preoccupied by Wonka. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to go watch Willy Wonka.
He wants to be Willy Wonka for Halloween.
That'd be cool. Again, not the Johnny Depp creepy, like Michael Jackson with Velma hair one. That one's creepy.
Everyone knows what you're talking about when you say Willy Wonka. Daniel Davis says, you did go longer than usual this time. We went longer than what we say we usually try to go. I don't know if we can say longer than usual. I think we're actually a little early compared to what it's been. Tuesday we were right at an hour. But anyway, thanks as always, everybody, for watching. Hope you had a good time. We certainly did. We're going to be back in just a few minutes on Patreon. So if you are a patron, look for an email in just a few minutes, and that will have the link to the Unlisted show. And we're just going to do more of this, but with stuff that we don't usually talk about on the channel. And Brandon will be here too.
It all? I'm going to be pulling questions from the old Captain Logan Show archives. I looked at the file today, all the way back from June of 2019. I'm going to be pulling questions from.
Wow,
so
cool.
We'll see if any of them are still relevant.
Did you find anything juicy?
I don't know. I didn't have much time to I just kind of skimmed it. I didn't have much time, so I'm going to do it live as you and Brandon are talking.
Screw it, he's going to do it live. He'll do it live.
But yeah, if you do join the Patreon like right now, you can still get the link to the live show tonight. So hop on there if you're interested.
Yes, of course.
Don't know how it's going to go. We'll see how it goes.
Well, and I've also got some questions that came in just today that we'll fill in with as well. Patrons, I'm not going to promise that we'll get to all of the stuff that you asked today, because we also want to do some of those backlog archived things. But I asked for some new stuff today just in case DJ didn't have time to go through that list, because I don't have that list. That's DJ. Or if he didn't find anything topical, so or found topical things from earlier that are no longer relevant. Yeah. So there's got to be. There have been a lot of times where a question has come up and we've been like, well, we'll answer it sort of, but we'd love to elaborate on that later on After Dark. So maybe we'll find some of those. But anyway, patreon.com/geekvolution if you're not currently a patron, and just the $2 tier will get you access to that. You can come hang out with us, and we'll try to answer some stuff live too if we've got time. We'll certainly be interacting with you at the very least. So anyway, in about 15 minutes, so it is close to 8:30 my time now. It's like 8:25, so around 8:35 to 8:40, probably around 8:40 we'll be back for Captain Logan, Captain Me, After Dark. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan. That was DJ Martinez. We'll see you again next Tuesday, probably for a commentary. Not sure what yet, but we'll do a show for you on Tuesday, and we'll see you next time. Later, folks.
There's no knowing where we're going. Bye, guys.
All right, DJ, I will see you in just a couple of minutes. I have got to rush off to the bathroom. I'll be right back. It'll be a few minutes, but I'll see you in a bit.
All right.
Bye.